welcome to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Millie, and today is another Multichrome Monday, and I'm so excited to share this brand with you. We're going to be talking about some gel multichromes again. I have a previous video where I tried on some gel multichromes from Kristen Lee Cosmetics, and these ones are a bit different. These are actually more like the deeper multichromes from like Cliona, Luxie, Terra Moons. They're like the jeweled toned multichromes versus the Kristen Lee, which were a bit different. They were more iridescent and like toppers, so they didn't really have that deep look to them as these. So these gel multichromes are from a really small indie brand called Chaos Cosmetics. Now that is not to be confused with the really sketchy indie brand called Chaos Makeup. That brand is a whole nother thing. They're totally two separate brands. They just happen to have the same first word. So the gel multichrome set that I got came with 4 multichromes. 3 of them are the deeper shades, and the lighter one is more of a iridescent shade. So they came in these clamshell containers, and you have actually quite a bit of product in here. And of course on their website you can choose if you want a larger jar, but I really wanted to try them out and get a feel for them before I would go and buy like a full-size jar. But this way you get a really nice variety, and it's a bundle, so you can just order them all at once, and I think they're the perfect amount. You're gonna get a lot of uses out of these. So they have these multichromes, and then they have some really beautiful iridescent gels that I also would like to try in the future. They also have one more deeper like multichrome that wasn't in the bundle, and I will throw that picture up here, which I don't have that one. And they also sell loose eyeshadows, and they have some really beautiful duochromes. I got one of their bundles, I forget what it was called, I'll throw it up on the screen, and I actually ended up pressing it because I don't really like loose pigments, but I pressed them. It's these, and then a couple, and then these 4 right here. They're so beautiful. So if you love duochromes and shiny eyeshadows, I would definitely recommend those as well. But because this is a gel, I'm going to be going about the application a little bit differently than pressed eyeshadows that I always do. So I won't be using my cut crease canvas, and I will go into more detail at the end of the video where I talk about my thoughts on these. But I'm going to be using the Smashbox 24-hour primer, and I'm just going to be very lightly setting it with the Colourpop No-Filter pressed powder. Then I'm going to be going in with 3 different brushes. I usually always apply my pressed multichromes with the Colourpop flat brush. They don't sell it anymore. It's the pink one, but you could really find this kind of brush from almost any brand. And I'm also going to be using this Sephora silicone applicator. It's because I really liked using this one to apply the Kristen Lee gels, and this one in general is just really good for any kind of glittery shadows and also some metallics that are a little bit more gritty. And I just think it makes sense because it is silicone, so it allows for that slip with something that might be wet or cream. And then lastly, I'm going to be using the Unit 202 brush, which is an eyeshadow lid packing brush similar to the Colourpop, but it is just a little bit thicker, almost a little bit fluffier. So I'm going to be trying all those 3 out in application. So now let's get into the eye swatches. First up is the shade Carpel. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I'm priming with the Smashbox primer, and I'm just very lightly setting it with the Colourpop No-Filter powder. And for this first look, I'm using the silicone applicator from Sephora, and it applied pretty well with the silicone applicator, but it did kind of slip around and leave a little bit of patchiness. So I did go back and just pat any areas that might have been a little bit uneven, but I do really like the small shape of this applicator, especially for creating a wing. And this is what it looks like with a DSLR camera. But this shade has a very strong shift, and it was really easy to capture. And then here it is with a phone camera. You can see how the color shifts as the light changes. Next up is Stay Low. And for this one, I'm going to be using the Colourpop flat brush. And it's applied on pretty patchy and streaky. So I first kind of just had to work the shape that I wanted, and then I applied just a little bit more and patted it out. and patted it out to get rid of any of the patchiness. And this one also has a super strong shift, very easy to capture with both cameras. First is the DSLR, so you can see depending on where you can see here depending on where the light is hitting from, it will shift from the inner corner to the outer corner, and then when the light is hitting from the other side, the shift will be actually on the outer corner into the inner corner. So last up we got OXXO. And this is a green multichrome that shifts kind of blue teal. And this time I'm going to be using another brush to apply it. This is the Unit 202 and it's kind of like a flat packing eyeshadow brush, but it's a little bit fluffier than the Colourpop one that I use. And this is a synthetic brush, which is definitely what I would recommend with any kind of cream or wet product. And I think that this one applies it the absolute best. Wing is a little tricky with such a chubby brush, but the shade I had a lot of trouble trying to capture the shift. It was pretty apparent in real life, but it just kind of got lost on camera. Definitely easier to capture with a phone camera. And so because the fourth multichrome is an iridescent shade, I'm not going to eye swatch it, but I'm going to be inserting some videos of swatches on my phone, especially because that's when you can really see the shifts in it. And this one actually reminds me of the Terra Moon's Red Giant Pressed Iridescent Chameleon Shadow. And so I'm going to throw in a comparison swatch there because I think they are similar. And the shade is called Olympus. So they're actually not that similar. Once I swatched them, they were pretty different. Red Giant is just much more red, while Olympus has a just really bright orange shift. So then I compared it to Solar Flare from Terra Moon's, and it's much closer there. They're very, very similar. And I think that one would make for a great face highlighter or inner corner and under the brow highlight. And it's super easy to use and apply, and it dries down so it won't budge. So now let's talk about the other multichromes, the three shades. We got Carpel, OXXO, and Phthalo. And Phthalo, I think, or Phthalo, I'm not sure. Totally correct me in the comments below. But these three are absolutely stunning. I think they have very strong shifts. OXXO was harder for me to capture on camera, and I'm not sure why, because I had no issues seeing the shift in real life. So I've worn all three shades multiple times, and the first time I applied them, I had no issues with patchiness. They applied so smooth and beautiful and even. And I did, however, put them on over, I don't remember if it was the P. Louise base or Makeup Revolution Cut Crease Canvas. It was one of those. I did have eyeshadow on as well, but they kind of dulled down throughout the day. And so I was really disappointed, but then I realized that it doesn't make sense to put something that is already a wet consistency over something that is also a wet consistency or tacky. And so combining two separate formulas like that probably wasn't the best idea. So I'm not surprised actually now looking back at it that that's what happened, because every time I use the Smashbox 24-hour primer and I put these on the lid, they do not budge, they do not fade, they do not crease. They look just like I applied them even 8 hours later. And I was also curious to see if there was gonna be any kind of fallout. So at the end of the day, I would actually rub my lid and see if it comes off of my finger. And it didn't, like nothing came off, and it still looked flawless. So these are just perfect for oily hooded lids because they just stay so well, and also because they are a gel formula, it's gonna allow for any kind of like graphic looks like this wing, or if you wanted to do cut crease, definitely easy. I think fading out the edges might be harder if you're trying to blend it into a matte eyeshadow. You can tap out the edges a little bit. And speaking of tapping out edges, something else that's really cool about these is I have not ran into the issue that I run in with Pressed Multichromes, which is the blackened base. I haven't encountered any issues with any kind of graying out or anything. These are just super pigmented, which I think is a huge plus. Next, I want to talk about application of these a little bit more in depth, and I think that the Unit 202 brush was the best at applying, which is really interesting because it's a little on the fluffy side, so I was pretty surprised, but that one just applied it very smoothly, while the others, it ended up being just a little patchy here and there if you kept kind of pressing and going over the same sections, which is something that I ran into using them now versus when I first got them. I don't know, it's been like 2 months maybe to be even, but this brush did an amazing job. So I'm not saying you need to buy this exact brush, but just something like it if you have it. But maybe, who knows, you might not even have that issue, but they're really easy to fix, and I didn't have that issue every time, so I'm not really worried about it. I don't think that's really a con for me at all because they wear so amazingly on my oily lids that it's just absolutely mind-blowing. So also something I wanted to mention is that these take quite a bit of time to dry down. I would say at least 1 minute, if not more like maybe 3 or 4 minutes. So when they are drying down, do not open your eyes. I usually would just like stay like this. I would like, you know, take a moment and look on my phone and just be looking down or kind of waving it. And once it's dry, you're good for the day. And also, you don't want to be putting on too many layers. I would really recommend just one, and if you do need to put on another one just to even it out further, I would do the smallest, tiniest amount and really just fill in any sections, because you don't want to put on too much. If you put on too thick of a layer, you will feel it on your lid. And also what I noticed is it accentuates skin texture on your lids because there is such a thick layer that really applies to any kind of shimmer, even those like loose flakies. Those, for example, like they make my eyes look so wrinkly, and sometimes if I pack on too much of flaky eyeshadows, they can also do that. So I would just put on a very thin layer. It's all you need. Like I said, they're so pigmented, so you don't need to layer them to get a full metallic effect. So I think that's everything. I feel like I just rambled on and on, but I really hope that this video was helpful. I recommend these so much. I think you should definitely check them out. They're a very small indie brand, and I think that they deserve so much more recognition. So that is everything for this video. I have a bunch of other multichrome content up for my multichrome series, and I will leave that up on the screen if that's something you're interested in. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.